إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله تعالى وإن خير الهدي هدي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وإن كل محدثة بدعة وإن كل بدعة ضلالة وإن كل ضلالة في النار. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity to go through half of the month of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us our fasting, our standing, and our spending. Allahumma ameen. During the month of Ramadan, we find ourselves tending to come more to the masjid. And we should. And we fill in every single space. And we should. And we encourage each other to do everything good, aside from the fasting, to stand for Taraweeh for hours. And we should. Whether we do it at home or in the masjid. And we encourage each other to spend. And we open the doors for raising funds to pay and supplement some basic needs of the community, like building the masjid and spending on the operation and helping relief organizations, clinic, legal, and so forth and so on. And we should. But I often ask myself, and I ask my brothers to also be patient with me as I go through this. And my next statements are not for any of us to go and judge people, but to judge each person, to judge himself or herself. Where does hypocrisy fit in the equation of Ramadan? Some may dare to speak about the community at large. Look at us. We come during Ramadan, then we disappear. And that's true. But is this the hypocrisy that we should fear? Remember, the best of the societies that lived during the time of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam had hypocrites. The Messenger is amongst them, revelation with miraculous secrets that people cannot deny, to a point where some of us may today say, oh, I wish I was living during the time of the Messenger. And if we think about it twice, what if we were on the other side? If it is so clear to every single human, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the choice, people split. And hypocrites lived among and within that society. So how do we compare to that? Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, Aminu Sirri Rasulillah, the one that was trusted by the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as you know, the Messenger told him about specific hypocrites, and he did not release that info to anyone. So some hypocrites were living within the Muslim community. This is the generation of the companions. And the Messenger did not point them out to the community, and the community did not point to each other. But Hudayfa was told. One time, Hudayfa radiyallahu anhu was walking in the masjid, saw a circle of knowledge by the followers, the tabi'een. This is after the death of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. A long story, it's in Al-Bukhari. I'm going to take only a little bit. He came to that circle and he said, لَقَدْ أُنزِلَ النِّفَاقُ عَلَى قَوْمٍ خَيْرٍ مِّنْكُمْ. Hypocrisy descended or allowed to spread or exist upon people better than you. Now, long story made short, it was an advice, because those who listened smiled and they understood that he's telling them, don't be so arrogant and proud that you're learning and sitting in the masjid and now you passed and you guaranteed yourself entry to paradise. Be careful, because hypocrisy could attack you. That's in a summary. And that's Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman. Some of us may think that a hypocrite knows himself or herself. That could be true. Some others may think that a person wakes up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to be a hypocrite today. I am going to declare to be a Muslim with a Muslim personality, but deep inside I'm going to hate these people and I'm going to do everything to attack that religion. So people think I'm a Muslim and I'm doing otherwise. That could be true. Others may think that hypocrisy is a plot, conspiracy. People meeting at different times and plotting and planning and figuring out how to attack this or that community. And that could be true. But let me remind you that Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, in a hadith narrated in Muslim. Also, it's a long hadith, I'm going to take part of it. He saw people and he asked them, did you pray Asr? Did you pray Asr? And they answered, we have time, we just paid Dhuhr. We just paid, not in a minute, I mean, just a bit ago. We just prayed Dhuhr. And Anas recalled what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. He said, I heard the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam saying, "Tilka salatul munafiq." That is the prayer of a hypocrite. What's the prayer of a hypocrite? Listen to the rest. يرقب الشمس حتى إذا كانت بين قرني شيطان. He waits, loses time, lazy, postpones until the sun is ready to set. قام فنقر أربعا. He rushes, and he didn't say pray Asr or pray his prayer. نقر أربعا. Let me translate it. نقر is used for a chicken pecking at seeds. Chicken pecking at seeds. He said, نقر أربعا. He pecked 4 times, like 4 rak'ah of Asr. نقر أربعا. لا يذكر الله فيها إلا قليلا. Does not have the time to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except a bit. If the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is looking at a person who's praying, within the time, Because we always teach ourselves and we teach our kids, Salatul Asr is up to sunset. And that's valid for the one who has an excuse, for the one who slept or forgot. But for someone who did not, the preferred time is the beginning of that window. And delaying it to Hudhayfa or to Anas ibn Malik recalled in his mind the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam pointing to a person packing his prayer as it is part of being a hypocrite, because that person did not use his time properly. So delaying the prayer by itself without an excuse was something that could paint a person. Again, this is not a call for people to go around and have a list and say, you know what, you're 1, you're 2, you're 3, you're 1, you're 2. No, this is to do it for yourself. To hold yourself responsible and accountable as we go through the month of cleansing, the month that we feel that we're ready to pray, fast, spend money, and do everything we can. Where do we stand from that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a verse in Surah At-Tawbah, it's a long verse, I'm going to take the beginning and the end, speaks about certain categories of hypocrites. They start, وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ عَاهَدَ اللَّهِ, and some had an oath with Allah, not the messenger, not the people. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ عَاهَدَ اللَّهِ, had an oath with Allah, oh Allah, if you give us, we're going to spend and we're going to be righteous. And then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon them, فَلَمَّا آتَاهُمْ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ بَخِلُوا, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon them, they held back. They held back. These are definitely believers in Allah because they had an oath with Allah. And they said, oh Allah, if you give us, we're going to be generous. We're going to give. We're going to be righteous. وَتَوَلَّوْا وَهُمْ مُعْرِضُونَ. The point I want to make is the next few words. فَأَعْقَبَهُمْ نِفَاقًا في قلوبهم إلى يوم يلقونه. أعقبهم, the consequence that fell upon them is hypocrisy in their hearts until they meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فأعقبهم, these are people who had oath. They wanted to spend. They may not had enough money. They supplicated to Allah. Allah gave them, they stopped. And the result is a nest of hypocrisy around or inside the heart. And I ask myself, how do my habits, the bad ones, get accumulated to a point where a nest is building around my heart and inside my heart? Whether it's delaying the prayer, participating in backbiting, taking someone's money, not telling the truth, delaying the worship, being shy. How big and how important is being shy in Islam? عظمة الحياء في الإسلام. Haya is translated with many different words, modesty, and I like to use the word self-respect in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Self-respect for yourself. When I'm doing something wrong, how would Allah look at me now? Do I dare to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with full respect that I did this? Do I have sense of shame of what I did? Whether it's raising my voice, lowering my voice, speaking at the wrong time, talking about someone and so forth and so on. How many of our small mistakes keep accumulated? If any of you was looking for Ramadan to shed a couple pounds of weight, you may now discover you've been doing it over a year. And now you're going to rush, and Ramadan is an opportunity as you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shed some weight off. And dhunub is the same. We may have let ourselves to indulge in small things, Could be a word of a tongue that hurts someone or accuses someone. And it keeps building until we're comfortable saying, everyone is saying that. Why are you looking at me? And that's when the other verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, which should scare us. نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَاهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ. They forgot Allah and Allah made them forget themselves. They forgot to watch that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at them, listening to them, holding them accountable. So they forgot themselves and they started to indulge without holding themselves accountable by the end of the day. And as we say in English, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If I said I didn't mean it, well, did you mean to do something else? I didn't plan for this to happen. Well, the question is not that. The question, did you plan for something else? Because the heart is like a glass. If you don't fill it with the proper thing, it will have air in it. So if we did not plan to use our time properly, when to pray, when to fast, outside Ramadan, inside Ramadan, standing for Taraweeh or standing for Qiyam, spending when we have money or when we don't, at what point do we say to ourselves, our dua to Allah has been answered, and the money we have now is enough to donate, to build, to support, to have a masjid, to support a family? At what point do we tell ourselves our dua was answered, or are we going to be continuously poor and keep asking for more? A question I ask myself. The point I'm trying to make, brothers, during the month of Ramadan, more specifically, aside from putting food aside, that our actions have effect building up to a point where it could push us into hypocrisy. The lack of a decision within our life, within our family, within our community to change is a plan to fail in the hypocrisy balance. And hypocrisy, brothers and sisters, has different categories. Scholars call it shu'ab. Shu'ab al-nifaq. Ibn Abi Mulaika, one of the followers of the companions, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een, says a statement. Adraktu, Ibn Abi Mulaika narrated on behalf of Sayyida Aisha radiyallahu anha and Sayyida Asma. He listened to many of the Sahaba and relayed the hadith. He said, Adraktu 30 min ashabi Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I caught up during my lifetime with more than 30 of the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every single one of them, kulluhum yakhafu nifaqa ala nafsi. Every single one of them afraid that hypocrisy will attack him, will get to his heart. And al-Bukhari, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, put this hadith, guess where? In the chapter of faith, Kitabul Iman, under the title, Khawful Mu'mini an yahbuta amalahu wa la yash'ur. The fear that should happen to a believer, that his work will go in vain while he's not feeling it. That's the title that Al-Bukhari gave. Another tabi'a, Ibrahim al-Taymi, another follower of the companions, and he's the one who narrated on behalf of Anas ibn Malik, and by the way, he's one of those who died early in the jail of Al-Hajjaj, even though he's one of the famous narrators of hadith. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him. Listen to him, instead of cursing society or the ruler at that time who put him in jail, what we know about him, one of his sayings is, مَا عَرَضْتُ قَوْلِي عَلَى عَمَلِي. I never contrasted my sayings versus my actions. إِلَّا خِفْتُ أَنْ أَكُونَ مُكَذِّبًا. Without me being afraid that I'm lying. He's saying when I compare what I say versus what I do, and this is a tabi'i, So brothers and sisters, the companions and the followers of Tabi'een and those who came after them and followed them with ihsan ila yawm ad-din, we're not concerned about hypocrisy being a person who denies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger. They believe in Him. They're afraid that hypocrisy will get to their actions and accumulates to a point where it will make it worthless. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فيا فوز المستغفرين أستغفر الله. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. So the Sahaba Radwanullahi alayhim and the Tabi'een were not afraid to deny the existence and the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They were not afraid to be among the categories we mentioned early. Someone who wakes up in the morning thinking, I am a hypocrite, I'm going to attack those people. Not about those who are plotting overnight. And those are categories that do exist. But hypocrisies are levels. And these individuals were afraid to a point. As we mentioned earlier, Hudhayfa knew at least some of the hypocrites. And he did not say that to anyone. The story in Al-Athar says that Hudhayfa and Umar radiallahu anhu, during the time of Umar, when he was Amir al-Mu'mineen, there was a funeral. And remember, no one within the Muslim will go and point, he's a hypocrite, you know. We don't do that. The messenger didn't do it, the Sahaba didn't do it. But Hudhayfa came to the leader of the believers, to Amir al-Mu'mineen. He told him, sit down. Meaning, don't go in this funeral proceedings. And Umar asked him, why? Hudhayfa said, innahu minhum. He's one of them. That's it. What do you guess Umar would ask next? Who else is there? Not really. How? Not really. Umar was afraid about himself. He said, وَحُذَيْفَ أُنَاشِدُكَ اللَّهِ. By Allah, I ask you, am I one of them? Umar radiallahu anhu was concerned that the messenger may have named him among the hypocrites to Huzaifa. And Huzaifa answered, La wallah, no, but by Allah, I will not answer any question to anyone after that. He said, no, you're not, relax. But I will not answer this. And Hudhayfa narrated this later. Brothers and sisters, the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says in a hadith muttafaq alayhi in al-Bukhari and in Muslim, As-siyamu junnah. As-siyamu, fasting, junnah. Junnah is a shield, protection, firewall. If one of you is fasting, فَلَا يَرْفُثْ وَلَا يَجْهَلْ. If you're fasting, do not get down to those filthy words and act chaotically. وَإِنِ امْرُؤٌ قَاتَلَهُ. If a man or a person came to fight you, أَوْ شَاتَمَهُ. And I want to stop at the word شَاتَمَهُ. In the Arabic, sabara is to be patient. Sabara takes two people. Sabara, be patient, or he was patient. Sabara is to have two people patient with each other. Shatama is to curse someone. Shatama is for someone to curse back at each other. The messenger said, if someone came and called you to this duel, curse fight, shatamahu, فَلْيَقُلْ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ إِنِّي صَائِمٌ. What he should say, I'm fasting, I'm fasting. Those two words to remind the mind, the soul, that I am at a different category. I'm trying to be. And I'm preparing myself. And I want to be there. And I planned for it. And I'm not let anyone get me down from that level. And I'm going to maintain it as such. Allahu Akbar. One of the Sahaba, when the messenger knew that he was fasting every day, the messenger told him, you know this, you cannot, you do that continuously. He said, yes, I can. And I'm taking a shortcut here. And then the messenger said, if you really want, do like Siyam Dawood. Do like the fasting of David alayhi salam. He used to fast a day and eat a day. كَانَ يَصُومُ يَوْمًا وَيُفْطِرُ يَوْمًا. Some scholars said that's not the proper, even though many said that's, you fast Monday, you break Tuesday. You fast Wednesday, you break, and so forth and so on. But some scholars said, no, that's not necessarily the case because the messenger didn't do it. But if you look at the lunar calendar, which is 10 days less of the Gregorian, 355 days, take the 30 days out for Ramadan. First, let's divide it by half. Because the point here is if you fast half of the year, you achieve that same goal. You fasted and you broke your fast. Half, 50-50. So if you take 355 divided by 2, that's about 175, 76, 77, depending on which year we're in. Take Ramadan out, that's about 147. Take Mondays and Thursday, the messenger used to fast. That's 2 days a week, 8 a month, 11 months outside of Ramadan, that's 88. Take them from the 140, add to it Ashura, 6 days after Ramadan, you will be left with about 15 days plus and minus, and the messenger used to fast them in Sha'ban before the start of Ramadan, and you find the messenger was literally, if not more, 50-50 fasting. So if someone amongst us cannot control themselves, commit to that program at least. Where you could at least one day on, one day off, you could tell yourself and tell others, Inni sa'im, Inni sa'im. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse our heart from hypocrisy, Allahumma ameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse our action from showing off. Say ameen. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cleanse our tongues from saying something other than the truth. Say ameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect our eyes from seeing what they were not supposed to do. Say ameen. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت وتولنا فيمن توليت وبارك اللهم لنا فيما أعطيت وقنا واصرف عنا شر ما قضيت إنك تقضي بالحق ولا يقضى عليك إنه لا يذل من واليت ولا يعز من عاديت تباركت ربنا وتعاليت لا ملجأ ولا منجا منك إلا إليك. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the best citizens for our country. Allahumma ameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the best neighbors for our neighborhood. Allahumma ameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the best parents for our children. Allahumma ameen. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the best children for our parents. Allahumma ameen. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وتقبل صيامنا وقيامنا يا أرحم الراحمين وقوموا إلى صلاتكم يغفر لكم ذنوبكم.